How is it going, everybody? Welcome to round 3 of another store championship that I had the pleasure of judging. And you can see we're already moving pretty quick here. The camera started a little bit late. We're actually all the way up to the 4-Dawn turn for the Luffy on the right here. Looks like the Luffy on the left did win the die roll, but already taken first hit across the board. Each of them taking their first hits here. There was a 9k going into the Luffy on the right, and then a 7k coming back. Both Luffy's sitting at 2, and you may be wondering yourself, these guys are moving pretty quick. Well, that's because this is going to be a long one, so buckle up, because this is going to be a slogfest between these two blue-purple Luffy decks. Who would have thought blue-purple Luffy would still be amazing going in after the bans, losing both Big Mom as well as Katakuri. But there's some spicy cards in both of these players' decks. I don't know if you've peeped the left player's hand, but there is a card in there that is not a card you typically see. It is a old classic card from, I think, OP01, OP02. Very, very old card from a bygone era, but it is BYRNNDI World. I'm going to throw that up on the screen for everybody. Some people might not even know what that's called, what that is, or what it even does, but yeah, it has the ability to give itself, I believe, 792,000 power, something like that. It takes itself up to, I think, an 800,000. You don't quote me on that one, but I know it gets very high on the power, but it does have a steep cost. That is a minus, I believe, a minus 8k or minus 8 Dawn to activate the effect. Now this is all off memory. I haven't even looked at the card yet, but yeah, this guy had quite the showing here. Currently undefeated going into round 3. Both players 2-0. You can see just some mid-game shenanigans here. We see a Nami come out. Just some general swings back and forth with some 6Ks, just ramping as much as possible, trying to give out as many cards as possible. Gonna try to stay at 2 life across the board here, just because there is no healing left in either player's deck now. So you gotta play a little bit of a different game here. And we can see Luffy tapped out, but very unlikely that Luffy's gonna die on the left here, with just quite a few hit cards in hand, but is gonna be going up to start doing leader ability here soon. And we'll see what ends up happening. We're going to see a 6k go in, just going to get a 1k. And then we're going to see the Rosinante, a new pick in a lot of the Luffy decks. Rosinante being the ability to restand 2 Dawn, but also pitch an event to draw 2 cards. So we can get rid of some of these useless events like in this matchup, like God Thread, as we're already up to the amount of Dawn that we care about. And I'm going to have the AC turn on the background. We'll get that off in just a second, but it might cause some initial background noise, but probably not. But yeah, this is going to be an absolute slog. They're going to be going back and forth, left and right, just continuing to kind of be a game of resources at this point, because the first Luffy player to run out of counter in hand is the first one to die, especially in this matchup specifically. We're going to see a lot of exchanging of Gum Gum Giants. We're going to see just a lot of counter events across the board as these players go back and forth. And the player with the Rosinante in play at a bit of an advantage here, even though he's staring down a 9-cost Mihawk. But we'll see here. We got the Gum Gum Giant off the top of leader ability here. We're going to just go ahead and just poke with a 6k here. 2 blockers on the right side. Feeling pretty safe here. Just going to take the 9k hit, and might as well. Try not to use any counter until it matters, right? Like you can go, you can take a hit down to 2. Likely, you know, this fight for the last life here is going to be a lot more important as this game goes on. But we're going to see the Sanjin to the Nami. Nami's just going to cycle out some cards out of hand here, putting a card in the left player's hand. Likely might come down this matchup, especially as Luffy just continues to have a pretty large hand. But I think, for the most part, these Luffy players are going to try their best to maybe play around putting to a degree. Right, obviously, the first player to putting is the first player that's not putting a bigger card into play, right? Putting does cost 4 Dawn, so you have to kind of take a turn off and instead go for a more like mid-rangey game here. But we're going to see here what ends up happening. We see the Gear 2, potentially the pickup off of the top 5 search from the start of the turn. But looks like maybe not too happy with that decision. A few other cards in there. I saw a Nami blocker as well as another option. I think that was a Zoro as well, but I think we're just going to pick up the Gear 2 and go to start a turn here, picking up another card off the top. I think that was the Thunder Bagua, which is just another solid counter card. Especially with having Rosinante up, you're going to guarantee yourself at least 3 Dawn every turn. So you can kind of afford to play some of those 2-cost events. Just going to go ahead and keep pressuring face here. Just do little swings left and right. Just make those counter events awkward here. We're going to swing 7k, 7k. Just continue to 2k check the Luffy player here. as again, it's just it's honestly just a resource slog here. But we'll see when it ends up happening. Obviously, if we're attaching Dawn, we're likely not going to be resolving anything too huge, but we're instead just going to do a little bit of cleanup mode. We're going to red rock the Sanji here and pass on back to good old Luffy's turn. We're going to do start of our turn. Again, both these players are going to be doing extra actions every turn. Very, very exciting. Such exciting One Piece. What an ability. Imagine in a card game where cards in hand matter, you get a leader ability that lets you basically draw 2 cards a turn, but also decide what you're going to be drawing for those 2 cards. Man, what a card. I don't know what Bandai was thinking. And if anything, this shows just the continued success of this leader, just how strong this leader is too, right? It lost 2 of its best cards, and it's still here putting in the work. And looks like we're going to pick up a secret rare Luffy Snake Man off the top. And just going to bottom the rest of it, so not necessarily liking what else they see in that top 5 here. And it's going to be a blind draw up the top, which means likely no Sanji shenanigans, but I think picking up the secret Luffy means that we're probably going to resolve it this turn. Secret Luffy has 1 target on board, can bounce the Doflamingo blocker. I don't think the Luffy player on the right would be too upset if they got the Doflamingo back in hand, because they could just use it to continue to rearrange. But either way, looking at top 5 doesn't really matter that much anymore, right? Because both Luffy players are going to constantly know what's in their top 5. So we're going to go ahead and just see a Gum Giant get out of this 9k here, go up to 10k, kind of cycle some cards out of hand. Gonna get rid of a counter event that maybe you don't want to spend too much mana on here. Looks like a Hell's Judgment to hand here, but likely just looking for some bigger bodies themselves, because ultimately, yeah, you can continue picking Luffy down with these 7Ks, but I don't think we're gonna succeed if we continue on that path. Instead, we're gonna just counter out of a 7K attack, and then we're gonna play. Is that the man, the myth, the legend, BYRNNDI World? What a card. I think I need to pull it up on my phone because I need to put some respect on this card's name here. If I can even spell it. BYRNNDI World One Piece. Because this guy, he's a monster of a card. Alright, let's take a look. Okay, so yeah, it is. I was right. So yeah, okay, 8 cost 8k. Activate main -8 Dawn. And give it 792,000 power, making it a nice little 800,000 power threat. You're definitely not counting out of that one if it does swing deep, and I think potentially it's the mirror killer, right? It's the one way that Luffy can kind of break through these really exhaustive mirrors is just have a character that's going to attack for way more than you can counter out of. So for the rest of this game here, Luffy on the right has 2 options. Option number 1, keep blockers up. Option number 2, stay at 1 life, right? So either way, we're going to have to be doing that here. But just the first swing just gets immediately blocked, and now we're going to see the second swing comes in. Kind of peeping that the Luffy players kind of run out of 2Ks here, but looks like he still just have a 2K in hand, instead just willing to go down to 1. We're going to see another Nami come down, so our Luffy on the right completely committing to the plan of have as many blockers as possible. Do not let BYRNNDI World burn your world, and swing for a massive 800,000 K, which is crazy. Notably, you can actually get it even higher if you have a the Black Maria on board. So if you're running Black Maria, you can minus even more Dawn, right? You could -8, restand 5, and then if you have like a kid blocker in play, then you can -8 again and give it even more attack. But we're gonna see the 9K swing, just gonna easily get the block here. There's putting some respect on the secret Luffy in hand, right? Both players are aware of the secret Luffy because it was searched off of leader effect. So getting rid of those cheap blockers now, while you still can, seems pretty worth it here. But likely just going to see like maybe another big commit potentially from Luffy. We're just going to go 8k into the Rosinante here. This is likely going to require some amount of counter. I definitely want to keep this alive because it's just going to continue to allow you to set up Dawn. So I think pressuring the Rosinante here is pretty smart. Just trying to get it off the board, but I think we're just going to see continued swings here. We're going to see an 8k swing again in the Rosinante. This is 3 swings in a Rosinante, just forcing Luffy to use as much counter as possible. But again, in the world with Gum Giant, your hand size doesn't necessarily go down. We're going to just go ahead and pass here, and kind of seeing the real threat on the board, right? Rosinante is just going to continue to allow Luffy to potentially start to set up some bigger plays here, like drop some 9 costs, but also still hold up 3 Dawn. which is incredibly strong in a game like this where both players typically have a few Dawn up, and you want to make sure that you maximize every bit of Dawn that you can for these counter events here. But looking at the top 5, I did see a Mihawk in the mix. I saw a 9-drop Luffy as well. But it looks like a Sanji as well. Man, what a mix. What a top 5, right? So we definitely know Sanji's coming into play here. Gonna put the Mihawk into play. Mihawk, not the best target, probably gonna be the Luffy instead. But we're gonna go ahead and continue to ping with Rosinante. You're gonna taunt the opponent here, say, hey, you're not gonna kill this Rosinante. So I'm just gonna keep pinging you with it. We're gonna ping again for 6k here. Gonna maximize having 3 Dawn up at the end of the turn if we decide to go this Sanji into what I believe is a 9-drop Luffy off the top. That 9-drop Luffy can come into play and immediately contest something, as it will have Rush. Could contest the BYRNNDI World just to get that silly threat off the board, right? BYRNNDI World, nothing to scoff at right now. Nothing to scoff at, unless it gets Red Rocked. But it is a must-kill threat here. And it looks like, oh my. Should a judge been called here? I think a judge was called here. Yeah, judge was called here. So basically, it looks like the Luffy didn't draw a card. Maybe didn't draw a card for turn. I wasn't paying that much attention, but didn't draw a card for turn. Yep, okay. So looks like Luffy didn't draw a card for turn, which would have left the Mihawk be on top. But the Luffy player just confirming with the judge. Judge said that's okay. And typically that's the pattern here. If someone forgets to draw, it is a mandatory action. So still got to do it unless you start manipulating the top of your library, right? If you forget to draw and then you search top 5, you have way more information and you're instead going to lose that draw and get a warning. But we're going to see the Sanji come to play, going to drop the Monkey D. Luffy, which is immediately going to minus a Dawn, going to draw a card. I'm going to go ahead and threaten here. I think that 10k, is it going to go into life here? It's very much going to get countered out of if it decides to go into life here, but I think ultimately you do have to kind of end the game. Regardless of where it's going, it's getting countered out of here. So if it's going out of body or if it's going at life, I believe it's going at life here with the amount of counter it just used, which was 6k. So yeah, definitely going into life here. But gonna go ahead and see here what ends up happening. This is gonna be the top 5 look. Gonna grab the Nami. Happy with everything else on top. Not really having to think that much about it. So must either not care about what's on top or has exactly what he needs in the order that he needs it. Looks like another 2k Usopp off the top here. Those Usopps, solid, but you need at least one blocker, right? It's kind of hard to tap out for 2 Usopps here to rest both blockers, but we're going to instead play the Nami out here. The Luffy on the right, doing kind of what you need to do in this matchup, especially when staring down like a BYRNNDI World, is just having, again, following my checklist of the ways to survive. You need Dawn up, you need 1 life, and you need more than 1 blocker, right? 1 blocker, trivial when Usopp exists, especially if it's a 5 or less cost blocker. But instead we're going to see a 7k swing. Just going to continue to poke lead here. You're just going to get a 2k counter out of that here. Pretty solid. And then I think we're just going to continue to swing here. We're going to continue to pressure the Rosinante. And man, that Luffy on the right, we do not want to give up that Rosinante at all. Just going to give him another Gum Gum Giant. Which is going to actually stop Luffy from being able to... Oh, never mind. I spoke too soon. I was about to say it's going to turn off Luffy's leader ability, but he does show up the Bagua as well, being able to ramp back up, which means leader ability is back online for the next turn. But now we're going to see a BYRNNDI World. I think this is also going into the Rosinante. Might as well just send them all into the Rosinante at this point. You got to get that off the board, right? You don't want to let Luffy keep establishing big old bodies while also having a bajillion counter. And I think both players aware of how integral Rosinante is right now. And the fact that Rosinante is still on the board is honestly putting the Luffy on the right in a pretty advantageous position. They're both at 1 life, right? They both kind of have a very similar board, right? Obviously, one player doesn't have the BYRNNDI World, but you know, both have a blocker, both have some big bodies. But that Rosinante putting in the work here, and we're gonna look at the top 5. Look for something nice. We did set a card aside. We're gonna grab just the Gear 2 and draw a card here and go to the start of our turn. Definitely make sure we don't miss the draws here, but we're going to go swing a 10k. I think this 10k is, we're just pressuring lead at this point. There's no reason to pressure board, as I believe Luffy feels like he's in a pretty safe position now, right? As long as he's got 1 life and a blocker, that BYRNNDI World will not be a problem. Even if he does have a blocker, you know, we want to make sure the BYRNNDI World does not connect for life, because you know they're going to be minusing 8 on here. But yeah, it looks like just gonna give the little bit of a counter out of that. And then, yeah, the Gum Gum Giant plus a pudding. Potentially, we could also just continue to see some bigger swings, right? Like, Luffy doesn't have to establish a giant body here, but could just keep poking. And I think that's where we're gonna, that's what we might start doing here. But especially with, you know, having Rosinante up, you can get a little more flexible with your Don. One of the biggest problems with Luffy is the fact that they can't be very flexible, right? But we're gonna see a Gum Gum Giant again here, and a 2K counter to get out of the attack here, which means now we're in an awkward situation for Luffy, right? So the Luffy on the left, not gonna have leader ability going into this next turn, which honestly, this might spell disaster. No leader ability means no drawing 2 cards, and we know how good drawing 2 cards a turn is, especially in a match where both players are already doing it. But I think we're just going to continue to poke here. We've used at least 2 of our Dons, only 8 Don to work with here. We're going to swing another 7k, and he's just going to take it. Oh man, is this... you might as well just keep pressuring, right? If he didn't counter out a 1-7, is he going to counter out of this second 7? Right, and then you still have the Nami to swing. Obviously they have the blocker, but... I think ultimately we're still going very safe here. Just gonna go ahead and use a 7. We're gonna Gum Gum Giant again, so 3 Gum Gum Giants in hand. Exactly what you don't want to see when going for lethal, but we're not going for lethal here. We're just poking, right? We're just gonna continue to stay incredibly safe, playing down the Nami. Gonna cycle out the hand, get some bricks out of hand, and then we get 2 more Don off the Rosinante, which means any events that we draw off this Nami are gonna be live, which is very strong for this player here. But yeah, we almost started doing leader ability, but with a little bit of point here, like, hey, you only have 4 Don. You Gum Gum Gianted 3 times last turn. There is a cost to Gum Gum Gianting more than once, especially 3 times. So I think honestly, I think this is the last turn of the game. At least for this player on the left here, they have to establish some kind of way to go for lethal here. Look, staring at 4 Don. And likely at least one Gum Gum Giant, if not 2. I think we've seen 3 used from the player on the right. I think we've seen all of them used from the player on the left. So no real defensive options here. Looks like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 Gum Gum Giants out of the player on the right. And we watched 3 Gum Gum Giants happen last turn. I think we saw 1 in our turn earlier. No, we have 1 in hand. Okay, so the 4th Gum Gum Giant has been found, but can we really afford to do it anymore here? But we'll see what ends up happening. The player on the left definitely in a little bit of a think tank here, as this is a very tough spot to be in, especially with them establishing another blocker. It really is going to make this really hard. And I think, man, we're just going to keep pressuring Rosinante. Honestly, I think this is the last turn. This is like, you know, go home or kill or go home, right? Because ultimately, I think this game's over. Like 2 Namis on the right, 4 Don up, 1 life. BYRNNDI World, definitely not going for lethal. Right? But yeah, we're going to use the Gum Gum Giant. So that's the 4th Gum Gum Giant. Going to pitch another brick. And save the Rosinante. And now, you committed 1 of the Rosinante. You might as well continue to commit them here. And we're going to send another one. And just a power play from the opponent on the right. Just continuing to give cards to save Rosinante. You could have let the Rosinante go at any point, because this is likely the final little sequence of the game here. I'm gonna swing AK. He's gonna continue to protect it here with every event, likely meaning that there was no way that there was gonna go for lethal here. But there is not 8 Don on the board for even letting BYRNNDI World, and we do go to time here in the round. Now it's overtime at this point, but yeah, just see the block, right? So no AK, not gonna give any more counter into the Rosinante, but this is gonna be, has to be at this point a nice little concede. But yeah, that's a pass the turn. Straight on. 5 Don open. You know he has 1 Gum Gum Giant in hand. Likely could draw into some more counter, but I don't think this is enough counter to survive here. There is no life on that board for the left player. We see the Usopp come down. Usohachi gonna rest that blocker, and we're gonna start swinging 10Ks here. And I think we're gonna try our best to survive here. Gonna Gum Gum Giant the second BYRNNDI World. There he is. We know there's at least 2 copies in this deck. We're gonna minus 2 Don, and you draw 2, and it looks like we are able to counter the first one. But this is the second 10K, and I think this is where we spell defeat. And unfortunately, I really wanted to see BYRNNDI World go for it, swing 800,000K, but unfortunately, just not able to do it through the iron defense from the player on the right. anyways, if you enjoy this content, definitely subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.